The assignment that I wanted to go over today is student dashboard. I'm going to build off of what I wrote for Dojo Dashboard 2. So that means I'm not going to be able to edit, show, or delete dojos. But regardless, all of the relational information from student dashboard, it shouldn't really depend on that. So I think I should be fine. Okay? Let's start from there. Let's just take a quick look at our database and just the project in general, just to kind of get a feel for what we need to add onto this. So let's cd into second vagrant box, vagrant up. Can you believe the liquor store was closed today? I was trying to get some like in Arizona or something, but they weren't open.
Cash went earlier. Maybe he went somewhere else.
Maybe he did. Or maybe they closed early. Could be. Anyways, so let's go to Vagrant. Let's go into June. Let's go into, what was it? Dojo Dash. Okay, let's see June, Dojo Dash, code. And then let's open up Rails C just to see what the list of dojos is. Because I want to have at least like 2 to 3 dojos. And if not, I'll create a couple in this interface right here. Awesome, we have 3. Okay. So we do not have anything related to the student model. Let's check it out and double check. Yes, we only have the dojo.rb. Okay, awesome. So let's just start from the top and let's run this query or run this terminal command to create the student model. So am I in the right place? I sure am. So let's see, that looks consistent with what I need from dojo references. Yep. Okay. So let's rake db migrate. So let's look at the to-do list. Each dojo profile page should have a list of students that belong to that particular dojo. A user should be able to add a student to a particular dojo with the proper validations. A user should be able to see the profile page of a student. A user should be able to update the information of a particular user. And a user should be able to delete a particular student. So when I think about this stuff, typically, I tend to think, okay, if I need some sort of interface to add items, that's what I'm going to create first. Right? Adding and showing, those are the 2 biggest things. So let's take a look at our routes and see what routes we have already. So let's go to routes.rb. So I just have the page for all dojos. So let's create the page for a single dojo, and then we'll start with the new student stuff. Okay? Cool. So let me just blow this up a slight bit more. Okay. So where I'm going to start is I'm going to create the route for that page. So it would be /dojos/:ID. And that's going to take me to dojos show. So when I go to the show page of the dojos controller, the show method, then I just want to grab the single dojo here. And I'm grabbing this single dojo so I could print out its information on the page. So I'm going to grab that ID for the dojo to do the query from params, right? So what did I call it in my routes? I called it just ID. So if I say @dojo equals dojo.find params ID, that should grab that dojo, right? So if I go to the show page on the views, show.html.erb, oh, that did not work out. Okay, and let's just do h2, and underneath we'll have the branch name. So I'll say at dojo.branch, dojo. And then we'll just have some other information. So we'll have the street. It's weird. Okay, there we go. So we'll have the p tag with street is at dojo.street. Yes, question? Or no? City at dojo.city. Okay. And then state is Washington, so we'll say state at dojo.state. So let's grab this guy, put that over here, take that p tag, okay. And then let's just have another h2, student roster. Let's create our table. So here we have our first table row. If you guys want to be super official, we could saythead. And then we could have ths inside. So what that is first name, last name, oops, email, and actions. Okay, and let's just say leave it at that. Let's create our A tag. So before I move on, let's just make sure that this works. So let's start up our server. So if I click show, looks good to me. Yeah, nice. So let's add that little A tag now. So let's make the href to, what does the route say that it needs to look like for this one? Dojo's Dojo ID students new. So let's just copy that route. And let's do a get for that. And that should map to the students hash new. Okay, which means that we should probably create a students controller. So if we go to the students controller and we go to new, then we could also create our view for that page, new.html.erb. And let's talk about this now that I've done the basic setup. So for the question that I got about adding students to a dojo, what is challenging about it, what I see when I see this page, well, the thing that catches my eye the most is this little drop down, right? This drop down that says basically the list of all the dojos currently in the database, right? And that's a dynamically generated option and select tag. Yeah. So in order to dynamically generate that, we need to query the database before we show this form, right? We need to get all the dojos from the database. So let's do that in the students controller. This is starting to get a little cluttered. Let me just get rid of some of this crap. Students controller, new.html. I need this one, need that one, don't need this one. Index, don't need this one. Okay, So in the students controller, I can say all dojos equals dojo.all. And that's pretty much all we need. So if I go to the new page, let's create our form. So it's first name, last name, email address, dojo. So let's have h2, new student. Let's do form. Action is to, now what does the action for that page look like? It's a post to this route. So here, I need to make a post request to dojo ID, but I don't know which dojo ID. Oh, I see, I see. That's interesting. Because you click on add student and it assumes that you're going to be adding to this dojo, but in the dropdown you can also change it, right? So that's a little tricky. That's interesting. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another item to the new page, and I'm going to say, let's call it this dojo. I'm going to say dojo.find based on params. Now here in routes.rb, what did we call it? We called it dojo ID. Okay. So let's say right here, I'm going to print out at this dojo.id. The method is equal to post. The input hidden. Gosh, I'm just going to copy that. You guys don't judge me if I copy this, right? Good. Okay. So let's put an input type with a p tag. P tag input. Its type is text. Name is equal to first name. Do you guys want me to use strong params here? Do you guys have any feelings about that?
Might as well. It's
Okay.
good for exercise.
Sure.
Kevin, what do you mean by strong params?
When I use the private params function, right? Instead of, so let's look at the Dojo's controller real quick. This thing right here is strong params, right? But in order to make this work, I need to, in my form, nest all of my elements within a student object or hash.
Is it strong param because it's a private method? Is it a strong param because it's under a private method?
I don't know why it's called strong params, but it is a private method.
All right.
Yeah. Let's do last name. Okay. We need an email. And we need a, so this is where the dojo comes into play. Okay. So here, let's just add the input type of submit. And let's talk about this option select. So let's start off with the option. Start off with the select. So the select name should be the student's their dojo ID. Okay? Now, that name belongs to the select tag. The options, how many options do we need in this select tag?
However many dojos.
Exactly, right? So we got to add in some logic here that says at all dojos.each do, and let's call this a single dojo. Now, for now, let's just have them all show up, but I'll add on the functionality of whatever dojo that they clicked on, that's the one that will be auto-filled, okay? But for now, let's just hold on to this. So we'll say option value. So what's the value that we want to pass through here? What is the dojo ID? Yeah.
alldojos.id.
Well, all dojos is a list of dojos.
Oh,
So how do I talk the individual one?
dojo.id.
Exactly. So that's the value there.
What's the difference between like dojo.id and dojo_ID? Because
So dojo.id, right?
the method.
It's the primary key, the unique identifier on the dojo table,
yeah.
right? Dojo ID is not unique. It's a foreign key from the student that says this is the ID of the dojo that I belong to,
Okay.
right? There's a small difference there, but it's very important.
Yeah. So dojo.id is a part of the dojo class, whereas dojo_ID is the student's dojo ID.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Cool. So now that we have that done, we'll say dojo.branch, I believe is the name. Okay, so let's end this loop real quick. And let's see if it shows up. Refresh the page. Did I not put the href in there properly? Oh, whoops. Dojos slash at dojo.id slash students slash new. Create a new student. And there's our tags. So let's make sure that the create method works, and then I'll show you guys how to do the whole making sure that the one that is that ID is automatically selected. Okay. So here, what is the route that they wanted us to send to? It was on the show page, on the new page, dojos, things, students. So if we go to routes RB, let's do post dojos slash dojo ID slash students. That should take me to students create. So if I students create, I go to the students controller, I say def create. So here, before I do anything, let's create our private params method. So if I say def student params, then I'm going to say params dot require student. So my question to you guys is, in the permit, right, we say all the fields that we want to allow through the params hash. So what are those? So the first one is first name, right? The next one's last name. Next one's email. Those are all pretty straightforward. But how about dojo ID? What do you guys think we need to put in there? Not necessarily. Let's take a look at, so the answer to that question is whatever we named it in the select tag, right? Whatever that input is calling it. So here, even though it seems weird because we've been saying lately like, hey, don't refer to dojo ID when you're doing these things, right? Here, because it's how our input is written, we have to do this, okay? So that being said, I'm just going to say d equals dojo.new, and I'm going to say, student.new. So let's say stud, and I'm going to say student params, okay? And then if I say stud.valid, if stud.valid, then let's just redirect to. So where do we want to redirect to? After I submit a new student, it should take me back to this page. Okay, so we need to grab the dojo ID, not from the form, but from the URL bar, right? We need to grab that one and send it back to this redirect string. So what we need to do is we need to go to /dojos/ and then can I write something like this in here?
Yes.
Does everybody concur with that idea?
Actually, that goes in your template.
This goes only in templates, right? So how would I make this string contain the dojo ID? Any ideas? Just ignore the typing. I'm just getting all this mundane stuff out of the way.
You pass that into session and then call session.
Well, what were we
You don't need to pass it into session. We have the information in params dojo ID.
Isn't it just taking us back to the original dojos page, or is it taking us to a student's?
It's taking us back to a specific dojo.
Okay.
So we can't use these template tags. They're only defined inside of templates. We are not in a template, we're just in a normal Ruby file. So if we're in a normal Ruby file, how do we add variables to a string?
Add.
Pound sign curly brackets.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, dojo ID. Here, you could also use a plus sign. Just be wary that if you do use a plus sign, you might need to convert to a string in order to have it all add up correctly and put the two strings together. But I kind of like doing it this way. I don't know. Looks cool. Get that little blue outline. So let's do the same here. Dojos. Let's just copy this now that we've set it. /students/new. Okay. So there is a very bad error here, but I don't want to say anything about it because I want to show you the error and then explain it. So before we do anything else, let's go into the models and let's add something about student. Let's add like some very basic validation, like validates first name, last name, presence. Okay, refresh the page, submit that. Weird. So we get this weird error. We don't even get an error from Rails, right? Super weird. So how do we debug this? Well, we gotta kind of look through this. So we say, okay, it started the post request. It got the parameters. It's sending it all through all right. It redirected. Oh, but wait. What is this place we're redirecting to? It's not getting the variable params dojo ID and turning it into a part of the URL. It's literally just grabbing that whole thing with the hash mark in front of it and the curly braces and just saying, this is the URL you want to go to, right? So this is a very strange error, and I will show you what I did wrong. When you do string interpolation in Ruby, you have to use double quotes. That's a killer. I would be very wary of that. What have I done? Dojos/students/new. Let's go back. Go back again. Okay, so we don't have any way of checking if the dojo has been updated with that student. So let's just do our, go to our dojos controller and let's actually try to get all the students printed out. Okay? Yeah, that'll be helpful, right? So that's super weird to me. Redirect to params dojo ID, students new. Anyways, so here, I will just separate it out into two queries. I'm going to create a variable called students, and I'm just going to say student.where. And here, when I'm querying, I want to query based off of our objects, right? So what is the name of the related model to the student model?
Of the object?
Yeah.
To the student model?
So let's go to,
At Dojo?
it's Dojo, right? So here it says belongs to Dojo, right? So here, I'm just gonna say Dojo is at Dojo. Okay. Now on the show page, all we can do is just add a loop. So I can say at students.eachDo stud, and then we'll have a tr, td, and then we'll say stud.firstName. Stud.lastName, and let's just do stud.email real quick. Oh, forgot the and. Didn't seem like we added them. But wait, we failed validation, didn't we? Right? It's supposed to send us back here. So let's go back to first name, last name, email. So let's actually create somebody. So let's make somebody in San Jose. Let's say, let's see who's up there. Michael Choi. Michael@choi.com. Okay, so this is for the Burbank dojo. So if I go to the San Jose dojo, it doesn't seem to be finding it, right? So let's actually take a step back and let's go to our console. Student.all. We never posted the student.
You never said .save. Still .save.
Thank you. Wow, that was humbling. So let's exit, refresh the page, add a new student, Michael Choi, Michael@choi.com. Boom. Okay. So let's try to break that down. So there's a few steps to this process. The first step is making sure that when you load the page for the form, that you query for all of the related items that you're going to possibly need to add to, right? So just keep that in mind. Anytime you see like a drop down and it's like something from the database, just query for it automatically. That allows you to populate that drop down with the information from the database, right? The next step is to remember what you put it in your form and refer back to it when you make your query again, okay? After that, so long as you set up those two pieces, it should be fairly, like the item is saved with the correct information, right? The last piece is getting that information to come out of the database in your Dojo's controller, and that's kind of where this query comes into play. Okay?
Yeah, that one's funny because you're like, you're just.
There's multiple ways that I could do this, right? I like doing it this way because it's very Django-like, because you're talking about specifically the student model, right? But another way you could write this is @students equals @dojo.students, right? But if I wanted to do this way, I do need to add one more step, and it's a step that we should have anyways, and that's as part of our dojo model. On the dojo model, that .students method only exists if you say has many students. Okay? So once I add that, it gives me the exact same information. Now, devil's advocate, if I took it out, get an error. Okay? So both of these are perfectly valid ways of doing the exact same thing. Okay? Let's see. So that's kind of the trouble with the getting students to show up. Let's talk about, yeah, what's up?
Can you just do the view page for show for dojos control? Is that what we're on right now?
It's this one, right?
Yeah,
What do you want to see from it?
I'm just trying to compare to what I read. For stud, you have that that right there. Do you have that defined somewhere?
No, it's defined by this at students. Stud is just a parameter. I could call this
So I was getting hit
Banana.
with, that student wasn't defined or uninitialized constant. I don't know. Oh,
if this is the uninitialized constant, that means you need to define the variable. If this is your uninitialized constant,
yeah.
then that means that this name probably does not line up with this name. Those names need to line up.
Okay.
Okay? I could take a look at yours later too.
Okay.
But everybody understand what's going on here. Awesome. So let's do the whole filling in the default. So filling in the default is not too bad. We just need to go back to the new html.erb, and we just need to add some conditions here. Now, how the kind of trick is trying to figure out how do I make it so that a option is already pre-selected when you have a select. And that one is simply by adding the parameter default, right? If you add this attribute to the option tag, it'll automatically be that when you load the page, okay? So I'm just gonna add a little bit of ifs here. So if I say if dojo.id double equals, what am I gonna need to compare it to?
Params dojo.
Can I access the params hash in here? That's actually a good question. I haven't done that in a while, so let's see if it works. Just a second, let me add the else. Let's take off the default for this one. And let's add the So it doesn't seem like I can access the params hash from here. I guess another way we could try it is if we just said, well, I just want to make sure that that is the case that I cannot access params dojo ID, so I'm just going to do that right here. Doesn't show up. Yeah, okay. So unfortunately, we can't do that. So you said student ID?
Well, students, and then bracket dojo ID.
But the student hasn't been created yet.
What?
There's nothing to compare it to.
What are we just choosing which one we want
You're,
for the student to belong to?
it's the fact that the select, right?
Select doesn't have a thing to compare to for student ID, or are we choosing the ID?
You choose the ID, but the default is whatever ID was existing in this part of the URL, right? So it should be pre-populating with San Jose. That's the idea.
Okay, but how do you get that in the URL?
Well, that was from params dojo ID, right? But we can't access that from inside the template.
Okay.
What do we have access to that refers to a dojo ID? Specifically the one in the URL. Let's look at the students controller.
Dojo
So this is the new function. Do I have any variables here that I can use to compare and find the default?
This dojo.
This dojo, right? Everybody understand that?
So when it goes to the page where you're creating a new student, they're just gonna default and put the one that we want in the select tag?
It's not that they wanted, it's more about what page they were on before when they clicked create new student.
Yeah.
So if you were on the San Jose page and you clicked create new student,
It's
the
gonna
form should show San Jose already filled in.
Okay.
So here, you're completely right, Alejandro. It's this dojo. That's the variable we need to look at. So if I say at this dojo.id, let's see if that does it. If dojo ID, if dojo.id double equals at this dojo.id. That's weird. Why is it not showing up? All dojos, this dojo.id. Let's restart my server. So this is San Jose. I grab that dojo. If dojo.id double equals this dojo.id. Let's try to print out. So when I can't figure this stuff out, I like to print out in here the stuff that I'm trying to compare. Oh, goodness. So this dojo.id and dojo ID, oh, they're inside of this stupid thing. So, darn it. Okay, that was lame. Let's just do it right here. Let's get rid of this. So it is showing 2. So what's going on? This is another tricky one, right? Got any ideas, Brian? What if I said,
You're missing an equal sign.
well, you are right, there's something wrong, right? Because this dojo.id is 2, the dojo.id is also 2, but it's not hitting them. It's not hitting the this equality statement. Because when I say, this dojo.id and dojo.id, that should still be giving me 2 integers to compare. Let's make sure that option default
Have you set the student
selected.
dojo yet, though?
This is the form to do that.
Yeah. So how
Oh,
do you
it's-
compare?
I'm so dumb. I'm sorry, guys. It's called selected. I know, I've disappointed all of you guys.
It took us this long to figure this out.
Ouch! Savage. So yeah, there we go. So let's say Stephen McBeaven. Yeah. Steve at steve.com. Cool, Stephen McBeaven. And then if I create a new student, and let's just test that, if I add them to Burbank, then they'll still get added to Burbank. So let's say, I'm at Burbank, and I'm a student at test.com. Submit it. Okay, so I'm not going to see them here. Let's create another student. Let's say, Brian Zuber. Brian at Zuber.com. Submit that. Go to Dojos1. Boom. Okay. Sorry about that whole selected mess. I should have just checked it instead of thinking I knew it. Let's see. So that is all that we have here. Do you guys need help with the editing? Should I go over that too? What do you guys think?
Sure.
I can go over it.
I mean, might as well.
Sure.
The test is on Friday.
Fair enough. So, oh yeah, I love this cohorts page actually. So let's do this one. Okay. So for completion's sake, let's talk about these actions. So the first one is to show. The second one is to edit. And the last one is to destroy. So for the show page, it looks like /dojos/id/students/id. Okay, so that's a mouthful. So let's think about first the route that we need to write. So if I say a get request to /dojos, so right after that is the dojo ID, right? /students/ the student ID. And let me make sure I add the colon in the front. And that should take us to students #create. Everybody feel comfortable with what I tried to do here with this route? So now it gets a little trickier, right? We have two IDs that we need to keep track of. And that means we have two places to pull information from and two places I need to feed information to. So right here, the href is going to be dojos / so first is the dojo ID, right? So how do I get the dojo ID of the student?
Student.dojo_ID.
Right? Then we have another slash, then we go students / and then right here, this one's a little more self-explanatory. This one is the stud.id. Okay? So, and then let's go to the edit page. Oh god, the edit page is probably gigantic too. Wait a second. It's the exact same route? That can't be right. No way. Yeah, add a /edit at the end. Cool. So, copy paste time. Boom. Boom. /edit. Okay. Let's just tidy this up a little bit so it's a little easier to read. How's that look? It's kind of a mouthful, right? So I want to spend some time, make sure everybody is comfortable with what's going on here. Good? Okay, I'll move on. So let's go into the students show page, right? The method and the view page. And let's go to our students controller to define that. So let's take a look at this page. So what's the cohort list? So it's the cohort list is only the students that were added on the same day and attended the same location as the user in the profile page. So how can we do that? Well, let's not worry about that quite yet. Let's just kind of chew on it while we write out the boring syntax, okay? So we know for sure we need at least the student, right? So student.find, and where can I find them in the params hash? Under the key student ID, right? Because that's what we wrote in our route. So in the meantime, while we're doing that, let's go back to students. Let's do new file, show.html.erb. Now here, let's just say, at student dot first name dot last name. Oh god. There we go. Show. Ah. What's going on here?
Yeah, I came across this too.
Hmm?
I came across this too, and I just took out the dot require.
Right? It's weird, right? So let's take a look at our routes.rb. So for some reason, it thinks we're trying to go to the create page. Right? Is that what's going on?
I think you had dot create set twice on your routes. They're both going to create.
Oh my goodness, you are completely right. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'll go to a different page. There we go. Okay, so let's get their email. Right here. For email at student.email. So we also need to write the name of their dojo. So I would say one way you could do that is you could work backwards from the student and talk about the dojo that they belong to. So how would I write that in the template? So we start from @student, right? Now, what is the relationship name between the dojo model and the student model? It's just belongs to dojo, right? If we check our student model, it says belongs to dojo. So if I say student.dojo, I'm now on the dojo object that the student belongs to, and I could just say branch. Okay.
And this show is not under the dojo controller, but under the student. This
Yes.
show. So, see, what I tried to do is like I took just the dojo show control and tried to add the student table to it.
Mm.
Because I already had students created.
Right.
And I kept getting all the students ever created, not just the students of.
Because you couldn't get the information from the route, I
Yeah.
think then. That's probably what happened. But yeah, it needs to be its own separate thing.
It needs to be its own separate page under a show control. Okay.
Basically, I mean, the way you think about it is each one of these pages is their own controller method, right? So yeah, that would be a good rule of thumb for the time being. So cohort time. Gosh, I can't avoid this for any longer. So cohort, let's do our table. Screw it, I'm just gonna copy the table from the show page. Let's go back to here and copy the T head. Boom. Boom. So @students, let's call this @cohort. And we can keep the rest of this stuff. I just need to get rid of this last table column, like that. So it says undefined method each because we have not defined @cohort yet. So let's define @cohort. So we need to find all the students who were registered to the same dojo on the same day. So how can we do that?
Created that column.
Right, so we can say student.where, right? And I could say something like dojo is @student.dojo, maybe, right? That makes sense. And then the created @, so it's the same day that the student was created at. So how do we get the day out of that? What do you guys think?
Timestamp.
How so?
Just like this.
So let's check it out. So let's say active record query for same day. Date dot midnight dot date dot end of day. So we're giving it a range of dates. Okay, I like that. So let's create another variable. Let's say at cohort start date equals at student dot created at dot date. And let's just try to print that. We might have to actually parse this using date.parse. So let's just say puts at cohort start date. And let's do date.parse. Okay, let's see what happens there. Oh, great, I have an error. Because created at is a range from at cohort. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm just gonna get rid of that, and then I'll hold on to the created at for later. I just want this page to load. Okay, so no implicit conversion of active support time with zone into string. So this is not a string, it's actually a date object. Okay, so let's get that out. So if I look here, I get this date in UTC. So what if I said dot date? Let's refresh the page. So it doesn't seem like date is how we grab it. So what can we do? Maybe we could look at date with time zone methods Rails. We can look at that data type, and we could see strip time, no, create comparable, find TZ info. What could we do? Anybody got any ideas?
You know, you do like the percent, all that Y and stuff to display the time. Can you call the time by just asking for today?
We'd have to format it. So we'd have to say so you're saying something like, this is how we parse the string, but we want to do the opposite, right? So what if I said dot, not parse, there should be a different way to write it. Dot at, dot new, dot find TZ info, dot all. We could convert it to a string right here with 2s. So let's see what happens when I convert this to a string. Okay, let's go here, refresh the page. Let's check it out. Still says the same thing. So heck, what we could do is we could say, what if I split this into an array of strings? So if I said what would that do? Well, that string is what we're looking for. So what I could say, oh, that's so ugly. But I could say, I want the 0th index of this, and then I want to parse it as a date. It went through. And then I could say right here, created at is, so let's say, I don't want to turn this into one gigantic line of code. Let's say cohort start string. I'll say at cohort start date, because that's the actual date object. Created at is date dot midnight range to date dot end of day. Does that seem right? Have I lost you guys?
I'll watch it.
So here, we needed to grab the created at and convert it to a string. I'm not sure if this is necessarily the best way, but it's a way that I thought of. And then I'm going to say the cohort start date, the date object, and not just the string part of it, is date.parse of that thing split into an array, and the first element, so I could grab just the date part of that out. I feel like I might be doing it wrong though. Like I feel like it can't be that difficult.
There's stuff too. There's like,
Right, so we need, let's see, date objects, let's say date time objects. There has to be some way to grab the actual string out. Methods, parse, civil, strip time, HTTP date. Wait. Dot to date. Oh my god. I am so dumb. I think that'll do it. Okay, so all I had to do is convert the students created at to a date. Yeah, that'll work. And then here it's not date.midnight, date.end of day. It is at cohort start date and at cohort start date. Right? So here, when I do my where, what I'm doing my where on is that's weird. Anyways, what I'm doing my where on is from the created at of the midnight of that date to the end of day of that date. And all we have to do is just grab the date specifically out of that, and that should work, and that should go into our query pretty nicely. So if I refresh the page, okay, so those are the people in my cohort. What can I do to mess with this? Let's say I created somebody in the, I'm gonna manually create someone just to test. So if I say student.create, Dojo is, what is this? Dojo.find3. It's the third dojo. Oh no, it's the first dojo. And I'll say first name Bobby and last name Robertson. Bobby Boucher. Oh, okay, I like Waterboy. Boucher, I think that's how you spell it. Whatever. And then his email is electricity is evil.
The devil.
Oh, the devil.
DEVIL.
Okay, and then I could update student dot last dot, oh my god, dot created at equals date dot parse. I could say something like, let's make it 4 days ago, so 6-14-2018. What have I done? Invalid date. Let's look at the date parse. Sure. Boom. Let's just use this date. I'm so over this. Should not be saying that out loud. Nice. All right. So, hey, Waterboy came out around that time of the year. I mean, boom. Accurate. So when I start my server again, I should not be able to see Bobby Boucher in this dojo. Oh no, and I have. Student.where created at is, let's make sure, oh my god, I didn't save it. I'm sorry, guys. Let's go here and rerun this one. So let's say Bobby equals student.last, Bobby.created at equals this date.parse, Bobby.save. And now he has been created all the way back then. Let's exit and let's Rails S. And no more Bobby. That was a lot of work to test that out, but I did want to make sure that that worked. Okay?
Kevin, where did Bobby go?
So he is still going to be in the Burbank dojo as a student, but he is no longer a part of me and Brian's cohort.
Oh,
So like with the initial dojo dashboard 3, they had like all, if you typed in localhost dojos, you got a list of all the dojos, and then you clicked the show.
Mm-hmm.
It would take you to the dojo controller.
Like this, right?
Yeah. Now if you click that, do you see like it doesn't, how do you, if you have like a page like dojos, how do you integrate the students of that dojo on that page? Because that's under the dojo's controller. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, whereas before we made it under the students controller, right?
It doesn't, the whole each controller for each model, it's just a rule of thumb. It's not anything that Rails forces you to do.
Yeah.
So even though you're in the student controller or you're in the dojo controller, you can query any model you want.
Okay.
I think that's the question you're asking about, right? Like
So-
how is it possible to query this model from a different controller?
No, but like with this page, how would we get the students to populate the page? Like, would we?
I mean, it's no different than what we had earlier for the.
But it was under the show controller, or it had a whole different page,
Mhm.
HTML page. Would I just direct it instead of dojo to the dojo's controller, direct it to the student's controller .html .org? You know what I'm saying? But,
Well, the
not
different
control.
the different hrefs of those links
Yeah.
should be the ones responsible for doing that,
Yeah.
right? Like, so if I go to here and I go to this main page, right? This URL is localhost 3000/dojo/1.
Yeah.
That can only go to the dojo's show. When I hover over a particular student's
But
show,
it's populated there. Okay.
it says /dojo/1/student/3.
Yeah.
So that's how it knows the difference, and that's how it knows to go to the student's controller,
Okay.
is because the routes are that distinct. If your routes aren't distinct, then it will get confused.
Okay.
That could be what happened. But again, it's hard to tell without seeing what you wrote. But any questions about this so far? I mean, we're done, but
Oh, I'll ask you later.
what did you guys feel about this? Did it go too fast? Was it hard to understand? Did it make sense?
It made sense. You just approached it from like a different way than I started with, because I just went from like what I had on the dash,
Mhm.
and I hit like I showed you show there, and on that it would send me to like a page, dojo show page,
Mm-hmm.
and then I tried to integrate onto the dojo show page under the show method under the dojo's controller how to populate students on that dojo HTML,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't figure it out.
Okay. So hopefully that was explained decently well enough, but this is kind of where the magic happened, right? Is we just need to do some sort of query to grab only the students who belong to that dojo. Okay? But overall, I mean, you still made it pretty dang far. Any other questions about this? Anything that you want to say? Alrighty. Well, I will be saving this video, uploading it to YouTube. End of day goal is the same. Do you guys believe that is a reasonable goal? Yeah? To get to, what's it called? I'll show you. Let me stop this video real